serve ourselves coffee while
I can serve. I can do anything. Anyway, I was really looking forward to Zach's. Well, I'm Steve Spenker with Remax Terrasol, residential real estate. I can dabble in commercial. We are licensed to do that, but I usually hand that off to the professionals. But that's kind of the reason I got into Remax Terrasol, is because they had that ability, and then I started sticking my toe in that water and realizing if you're gonna be a pro at something, be a pro at something. Don't try to do everything. As Paul would know, there's a lot of agents out there that try to do, well, I can do real estate, I can do loans, I can do this. You're a little good at all of them, but you're not good at any of them. You know what I mean? Like, you're not putting all your effort into one thing, and that's what I really like to do, is I like putting all my effort into being good at one thing, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I was looking forward to Zach's presentation. Zach and I had a great coffee break, and he's a plumbing contractor, and he's a surfer, and he showed me some surfing pics, and I'm sure none of you guys realize, if you haven't surfed with him or talked to him, that guy can surf, man. And he's got some pictures of what he does, and it's amazing. So he invited me into the water, and I told him I'll pass because I don't want to be embarrassed. So I'm going to try to get out in the water, practice a little bit, because it's been a few years since I've surfed, and then maybe go out and let him show me a few tricks. The kid has got talent, but he's a great kid. And as I was saying earlier, Jessica and I had a great coffee break. So anyway, let me just take a step back. My last 3 weeks have been insane, and that's kind of why I was thrown off by this whole thing, me presenting today. It all started off with a coffee break, or my mom's service. As you guys know, my mom passed away, and I had to do all the planning and do all the service, and it's up north, and I had to transfer everything up. It was just, one of those things you do as a child. But then I had this coffee break with Jessica, and it was like a 3-hour coffee break, and I didn't realize how much Jessica and I had in common. And that's what's great about coffee breaks, is you don't know anything about each other until you connect. She and I had a great connection, obviously. We just couldn't shut up. We just kept talking. And I didn't realize, in confidentiality, I didn't realize how much she was in the same line with me. Like, I look at most agents and I go, I don't even have friends. I have like 1 or 2 people I talk to. I mean, I have acquaintances, but real estate agents and we aren't on the same page, and they're kind of a different breed. And that was one of the reasons I've shared about this before, that I became a real estate agent. And Jessica is a lot like me. She's got a little bit of construction background. She likes to work hard. She doesn't like all these. Anyway, that's a whole nother story for a different time, but we're aligned, and it's really cool. And I'm looking forward to hopefully having her come to our office and work with us. So then my brother-in-law has been working on this project. It's called the Western Flyer, if anybody has ever heard of that. And he's been working on it for 8 years. And a real quick story about that is being related to somebody. This guy is like a genius above geniuses. And when I first met him, I was electrical contractor. Well, I was an electrician. I mean, he didn't like me at all. We didn't get along. And then I became an electrical contractor, and I built his first office for him. And then we started bonding. I did all the electrical for it. But this guy is so smart. He knows everything about everything, and I didn't realize that about him. So he buys this boat that they found on the ocean floor that was sank 2 or 3 times, and it was Steinbeck's and Doc Ricketts' old boat. Originally, it was a fishing boat, a sardine boat, and he bought it for $1 million, and I laughed my ass off at this guy. The whole family was sitting around, and we're like, God, you are an idiot, and he does stuff like that. He's really eccentric. He'll buy like a 40-foot container full of fossils. I spent, $750,000 on this container full of fossils. Isn't it cool? What are you going to do with it? I don't know. And he sticks it out at his property and just leaves it. So he's one of these guys. So anyway, he buys this boat. We didn't know what he had in mind. I don't think he did. Okay, so he got an estimate for $400,000 to bring it back to life. Well, $400,000's not too bad. $8 million later, he's got a boat. So he had to put a foundation together and do all this stuff. Anyway, long story short, he's such a good person down deep inside. He's doing all of this to train kids in marine biology. It's to spark curiosity. That's the key words. Spark curiosity. That's what Steinbeck and Doc Ricketts were all about. Sparking curiosity. They're down there on this boat that they took, if you ever read the book, and they went down to see Cortez. They're just doing research. They were so excited to learn about, this is back when nobody knew anything about the ocean. And they're bringing back all these specimens and learning about this, and they're sparking curiosity. And that's all that this John wants to do with this boat. So he's going to park it in Monterey, back where it originally was. They've got 2 buildings. They're going to have classrooms. And then it's going to travel up and down the coast and teach kids about marine biology, spark curiosity. Let's save these oceans before we destroy them. That's basically his whole point. But anyway, it was great. I got to go to several events. I got to rub elbows with all the Ricketts, the Steinbecks. I was in Monterey, heaven up there. I grew up a little bit in Monterey, as some of you guys know. I went to Carmel High, and Steinbeck is a god up there. And you should have seen these people waiting in line 4 to 5 hours to get on this boat and walk around and look at it in the sun. It was actually sunny in Monterey. It was kind of weird. But it was an interesting event. I got to travel next to it. The Discovery Channel is doing a documentary on it. And they had these 2 cool guys that were on the boat with us. We were on a whale watching boat side by side with it and going around it as it traveled from Moss Landing, its last stop before it hit Monterey, its birthplace. And we're going alongside of it, and these guys had drones, and they shoot all the big documentaries, and I got to meet those guys and talk to them. And does anybody watch Parks and Rec in here?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Ron Swanson's going to do the voice on it. So I know his real name. I can't think of his real name. I call him Ron Swanson. But it was originally going to be Brad Pitt, and my wife was going to get to meet him, and she was really depressed. I was kind of too. I was kind of like, wanted to meet him. But anyway, so it's going to be really cool. There's going to be a documentary coming out about it. But we got to travel alongside this boat and then pull into Monterey. I literally was crying. Like how excited Monterey was, and to watch this boat come back into the harbor and have so many people so excited about this thing. And it's all, donations, and John was being given all these awards there, and he's so humble. He was supposed to ride on the boat, with the foundation members. There was like the Ricketts, the Steinbecks, and all the foundation members were actually on the boat going into the harbor. He rode on our boat because he's just that kind of guy. He didn't want any accolades, but he received all these awards. And one of them was from Panetta's son, who's a congressman. I don't know how many people know Leon Panetta. He's a big deal in Monterey County. Turns out he was like head of the CIA. My kids call him a war criminal. That's what kids call people these days that do their jobs, war criminals. So anyway, head of the CIA. So I got to meet his son, which was, the Panettas are a great story. They came from Italy with nothing and became very successful. And that's what this country is about, right? People coming from other places and becoming great Americans, and that's all what this country is about. But anyway, enough about the Western Flyer. Here to talk about real estate. So,
I'm sorry, Steve. Andy actually brought a newspaper. Was that you who brought the newspaper?
Yeah.
You brought it?
That was Karen.
Peter did.
Peter did.
Yeah.
There was an article in the LA Times Saturday, front page LA Times.
yeah,
Article.
about my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's another one in the Press Telegram, and I can send it to everybody, about my wife.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that one? I posted it, yeah, on Facebook. So I mean, she's related to him, but she does have the same mental, like she takes what he is, they're kind of the same, and she applies it to her job. She's a principal, and she's a principal in Naples, and it's kind of an affluent area. It's really, and she's bringing these kids down to earth and teaching them about, I don't know, being charitable like her brother is. So anyway, so let's talk a little bit about real estate market. We're in a crazy time right now. All the internet is blowing up with waiting for this thing to implode, and it's not going to implode. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. This is why I got into real estate. And I didn't realize, one of the reasons I got in originally, and you guys have all heard this, is I wanted to be different than your average realtor. I was working with real estate agents. I worked for 150 different real estate agents. That's kind of who I was working for as a contractor. I was doing cell sites. I was doing when 9/11 hit, I kind of moved more into a residential thing, and I was doing all this work for real estate agents. 150 of them. I worked for Star Real Estate, and when Harbor Homes Investment guy, Dean Zitko, brought me in, and he goes, after a while, he goes, you know what, Steve, you need to be a real estate agent. And I'm like, no way, you guys are weird, man. Like, I don't even want to be associated with you guys. And he goes, no, you'd be a great real estate. I go, I don't know how to sell houses. He goes, you can sell houses. So anyway, here I am. I'm a real estate agent now. Thanks, Dean. But I like the challenge of real estate. It's never the same. I go to work every day, and everything's different every single day, and especially with the internet. When I first got in, most of the agents didn't even have iPhones. I mean, I had an iPhone, but they were on flip phones. They were meeting clients at the office, driving them to show them houses that the clients had never seen before, Like now, clients see everything right online, So it was a different time 12, 13 years ago when I got into this. But I like the challenges of it. So I became this listing agent, and this all kind of fell into my lap about where my niche was going to be. I had no idea what my niche was going to be. I'm going to get up every day, work hard, and make my clients happy. That was my niche. I'm going to be different than that. I'm going to answer my phone. You call me, I'm going to answer my phone. Perfect example, yesterday, I have these clients. A lot of you guys are going to be working for them. They're going through a divorce. The husband's really chill and cool. I know him. Been knowing him for years. He's sober like me. The guy's down. He's cool. His wife? Not so much. I get on the phone with her yesterday, and I'm holding the phone like this, and she's screaming for like 30 minutes. But I'll answer the phone every single time she calls because she's my client. That's the difference between me and other agents. There's just one difference right there, is I will pick up the phone every time you call. I try to call other agents. They never answer the phone. They never text you back. You want to write an offer. Crickets, it's just like, so I will get up in the morning, I'll work hard, I'll do my best, and I'll make you happy, and I'll sell it. I'll sell your home or purchase your home like it's mine, okay? I'm going to get you the most money. I'm going to do everything I can to make the deal go smooth. And then once it gets sold, going through the transaction is something people forget about. That's very important. So I'll work hard all the way through. I show up, like Jessica and I talked about, no lockbox. I'm there every single time somebody's at that house. Guess who's there? Me. I've already been to the listing that we're all going to work on maybe 5 times now, and I'm not going to make any money till next year, but that's just the way I am, So back to challenges. This market is a challenge. So 8% interest rates, pent up, as Paul says. I'm stealing this line from you. Pent up demand. So we've got all these people wanting to buy homes out here, out in a cloud, looking at the internet, waiting for it. Everybody's telling them, the market's going to explode. And Democrats are going to drive the country into the ground. The whole world's going to explode. China's going to shoot us. I mean, you watch that stuff and you're just like, oh my God, I'll never buy a house. Well, that's what they want you to do. Trust me, all the investors, Wall Street, they all want each and every one of us not to buy a house. Why? So they can buy them. Number one, they own 40% of all rentals in the nation, and it's going up every day. They want that house to sit on the market. Houses, we'll get to this, houses are sitting on the market in what I call a nominal medium priced house in Huntington Beach or Orange County is $1 million, okay? That's like a low end, $1.2 million maybe. The demand on those houses, well, they sit on the market for 45 days. 45 days on the market right now. Isn't that crazy? 45 days. Well, it's not that crazy. That's, in old respects, that's good. But it's crazy when I think about it because I've never had a house sit on the market more than 2 days, except one time. And we've talked about that. That was June 2020, 1.6 million and we couldn't get a loan on it because the lenders, guys that Paul knows, decided they weren't going to loan on jumbo loans. So I couldn't sell it. I sold it in 28 days. Longest listing I've ever had, 28 days. Only one. The other ones were all 1 or 2 days. So 45 days.
And that was during COVID.
That was during COVID, during the shutdown, during the worst time. The market was all the way down at the very bottom of a V-shaped recovery. If you ever look at a graph and it goes all the way down and then comes up, June 2020, when I sold that house, was at the very bottom of, and I sold it in 28 days, very creatively. But anyway, I forgot what I was talking about.
The market.
Oh, the market. So yeah, it's crazy right now. 45 days. So what I do, well, what Wall Street wants you to do is not buy. So what they're going to do is they're going to let this house in the market, and then they're going to come in with an all cash offer, and the seller's going to go, thank God, and they're just going to take it and run. Then like this house we're going to sell, we're going to work on Alabama, it's going to turn into a rental. But with me selling it, maybe it'll be a single family home. I'm hoping it's a single family home with somebody that wants to offset their rental offset their payment with it's got an ADU in the bottom. It's got a master bedroom in the bottom with a separate entrance. And you can also, a young family could move into this home, rent out that room, and offset that's the way I'm gonna market this property. And hopefully I'll keep Wall Street out of the house. And that's my goal. Because I tell you guys, our kids, our grandkids are never gonna be able to afford homes if Wall Street owns everything, because they're not gonna sell. And then there's gonna be less for us to buy, and the prices are just going to keep going up. Anyway, so that's what scares me, is this country will turn into basically a rental country where you only can rent. So I saw a weird stat the other day that people between the age of 50 and 65 own like 80% of the property that's available out there. So no young people own property anymore. Is that scary or what? That scares the hell out of me. So I just sold, Paul and I just worked on one, and we sold it to somebody who's 40 years old, who thinks he's an old man, but he's not, he's 40. And his first home, 1.27, his payment's like almost 8,000 a month, 7,000 a month. It's like crazy. Like I would have never got into the market like that, I think. But anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about before I wrap it up, is what I did and what we all probably did, and I know Johnny did, because I know Johnny's an investor, is what we did when we were younger. I see these kids and I work with them, 30, 35 years old now, I call them kids. They're afraid to buy a house right now. They're like, oh, it's gonna crash, this and that. It's too expensive. And then you look, they've got 3 car payments, they're flying to Paris, they're doing this, they're in the Swiss Alps. I mean, I don't know where these people live these incredible lives, but we can't afford a house. So I explained to them, and believe it or not, I can turn client. So when I got my first house, I was an apprentice. Well, I didn't, but before I bought it, I was an apprentice, and I was at the laundromat. I had school 2 nights a week. I worked full time, and I was doing my homework at the laundromat while I do my laundry. That's just the way I am. I'm very like organized and like, okay, I got to do this and this and this, and have dinner. Then it's just kind of the way I've always run my life. And I'm sitting there doing my homework, and this guy next to me, he goes, it was really cool. The guy was like 70 years old. Looked like he didn't have a pot to piss in. I felt like I was going to loan him some money. And he goes, so what are you doing? I go, I'm doing my homework and this and that. He goes, oh. I go, what are you doing? He's reading the paper. This is back when you actually read the paper. And he goes, looking for investment properties. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I own 40 doors. I go, what's 40 doors? He goes, I own 40 houses. 40 houses? The guy doesn't even look like he had 4 cents. And he was just one of these cool guys that didn't care about looking the part. And he told me, do whatever you can to get into real estate. Get your foot in the door. I know it sounds crazy. It was at a time when rates were like crazy. I think they were 13%, something like that. And I was engaged, and I was like, well, I want to buy a house for my wife and this and that. And he goes, save every nickel, don't buy a car. He was like the dad I never had. So he told me all this stuff, and that's exactly what I did. I drove my beater car. I didn't buy anything, and I bought a house, and my payment, by the time I got in there, my payment was 3/4 of my monthly income. 3/4. But I did it. Almost 12.5%. And I've never turned back since. I love real estate. And these kids today, they complain. I know it's on a different scale, but it's the same thing. Get your foot in the door. Tell a great referral for me is somebody that maybe a child or somebody that you guys know that wants to buy but is afraid. Paul and I can work with them and get their foot in the door. And it's like, I heard the other day, it was like, it doesn't have to be that beautiful house on the hill. It could be that shack in a horrible neighborhood. You're never going to get that house on the hill until you start somewhere and have something to sell in exchange for something else. And it's just the way it is. And it's even, I don't know if it's harder now. It's hard to say, but it's definitely what you need to do. And I guess I'll just kind of throw it out to, wait, there was one other thing I want. No, that's okay. I'll throw it out. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead. What's up, Andy?
You first go.
Thank you, Paul. Do you think that the progression then for our kids is what we probably did? Condo, then small home, larger home. Do you think that's still the path to home ownership for that generation?
And I think the new path is looking at it as, instead of just a home, as a possible return on income. Like maybe buying something that has possibilities down the road. Like, of course, you're going to have to start off with a condo, or maybe you don't. My neighbor that lives 2 doors down, he was 18 years old. He grew up in Burbank, and he bought a duplex at 18. Okay? And he says he doesn't. He's got the whole story. You know him, Kirk. He lives across the street from us.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is very successful. 18 years old, strapped. He said he couldn't even buy a car, but he pulled it all together, and he bought his first duplex at 18. Buying something that's going to return investment and help you offset your payment, I think is a great idea. And with the ADUs and the lot splits and all the possibilities out there, I think kids don't necessarily have to go down that path. Like Paul said, that you can buy something and use the rent to help you qualify for a loan now.
What about family members all kind of pooling together?
Yes.
So, and then everybody's on title
Yeah.
until somebody can buy each other out.
If parents help their kids co-sign, right, but the kids are making the payment, it doesn't, if the parents still are like, oh, I want to be able to do this or that and I can't have that expense, it doesn't count against you from a debt to income point of view. If the kids are making the payment for 12 months, it's like you don't have that mortgage when you go to do something yourself. And then after they, got more income and stuff like that, you take them off and put it in your own name. So there is ways to do it, for sure.
Especially in a market like this where the interest rates are so high. So, not so high. I can't even believe it. Those words came out of my mouth. I'm hearing too many chatters. So high. They're at a good rate. I remember buying the house I'm in right now. It was 8 3/4%. I was a contractor. I put 20% down and paid 2 points and was jumping for joy. Okay, so but at a time like now, say rates drop 2 or 3 points. Say we get back down to 5. Your payment's going to be so significantly different, and then you can refi and pull your parents off of it,
But don't you agree it's easier to buy a house now, like to get your offer accepted?
Oh yeah.
Because when the rates go down, it's going to be a frenzy.
Yeah.
Just trying to get your offer
Because everybody
accepted.
qualifies.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying? Because everybody qualifies then?
No,
Because everybody
everybody's
qualifies because they feel like the rates are lower.
Yeah.
Right now, with the rates a little bit higher, it's a little bit less competitive. It's still competitive. I mean, there's still multiple offers and all that, but you have a really good shot at getting your offer accepted now.
Yeah.
I read an article yesterday that said if you don't buy now, when the rates drop, 5 million more buyers are going to be on the market like that.
Yeah.
5 million. That's a lot. And something I didn't talk about was real estate agents bailing out of this business as fast as they can run for the hills. I think we're up to like over 100,000 this year so far, and that letting their licenses go. And though that doesn't count all the ones that that have their licenses but aren't even doing business. Like I said before, the average real estate agent last year, not even this year, did 1 or less deals. Average. No, more than average. 80%. 80% of all agents did 1 or less deal last year. This is not an easy business. A friend of mine posted this yesterday, that the average income of a real estate agent, now this is across the United States, okay? So, but as we know, prices across the country aren't as cheap as they used to be. Remember, it used to be a great deal to leave California and you could buy 4 or 5 houses, still pocket 800 grand, those days are over. $39,000 a year, that's below poverty at real estate agents, what they make. So anybody want to get in the business? Come on in, it's a great place. But I've been watching real estate agents in the market since I bought my first house, and this always happens. The market gets good, license numbers increase. Market gets bad, they drop down, I got one funny story. I think I've told this before, but it always comes. It's just one of the many. But so my wife and I were buying a table. We're over here in Fountain Valley at one of those outlet places. We're buying a table for our living room. Right before Christmas, I got to get a table. So we're in there, and we bought it, and the guy's rolling it out on the dolly, and I opened up my Suburban, and he's like, okay, I think I could fit it in there. And he goes, oh, you're a real estate agent. I had a couple signs in there. I go, yeah. He goes, oh, me too. And he's like loading up the thing, That is the best story ever. Like, me too. So you're not an agent. What I like to say is, yeah, you're a licensed realtor, but you're no agent, Unless you're in the business doing business, you're not an agent. So anything else?
What do you think? This is totally off topic, but what do you think about that that guy that's suing on the whole compensations?
I think it's a joke.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think
There's people, they used a buyer agent to buy their house, and then when they went to sell it, they were mad that they had to pay the buyer agent a commission.
So
I think that's crazy.
it's a drummed up lawsuit, and it's going to be turned
Litigated
over a
for
lot.
years.
It's going to take years just to figure that out with all the appeals and stuff.
Yeah.
But here's a way to look at it. And I don't know if any of you guys watch $1 Million Listing or have ever watched it, but Josh Flagg, he's really successful. His family, they're immigrants too. They have tons of money. His grandmother came from Italy, and she became one of the biggest, I don't know, what you call them, not seamstress, designers and this and that. She made all this money, but she kind of fed him into this business, and he's a really sharp kid. He's like around 40 years old now, I think. But he was talking about it, and he was saying, look, houses are priced so that the seller covers both commissions. If the seller doesn't cover the buyer's commission, then the buyer has to pay for that out of pocket. Now the buyer doesn't have enough money to qualify. So what it does is it conveniently makes it easier for you as a buyer to qualify for a home. Because are you going to pay your agent? Okay, so now you've just added 2.5% to your closing costs. Most people barely make it in down to the nickel. And now you're going to have to pay 2.5%. So if this lawsuit does go through, now buyers are going to have to pay their own buyer's agents. What's the difference? We've got the seller pays it, but he gets to raise the price of his house. His house is worth more money because he's covering. Now your house is worth less. It's kind of a crock, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And here's a perfect example. The house that Paul and I just did, we had a buy down on it. A lot of money on a buy down, buying down the rate so my client can afford the house. So what do? We got the sellers to cover part of the buy down. Okay, it's a mirage. We raised the price of the house to cover the buy down. I mean, it's a big mirage. It's a smoke screen. But it's the same thing with commissions. We raise the price of the house to cover the buyer's commission. It's a smokescreen for the buyer not to have to come up with more cash.
Yeah.
So this whole thing about, oh, buyers should be buying, it's a bunch of BS if you ask me. That's how I feel.
Steve, you said earlier, young kids can't afford to get into the housing now.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And maybe it's best to go condo first
Mhm.
and small home. Some of my family members have gone to Austin, Texas or Nashville, Tennessee to get more property at a lower price. In your opinion, do you think going out of state is the only way to do that, or can they still get into the market here in Southern California?
I think they can get into this market. There's so many ways to do it. And especially if they could have help from their parents or co-signing or if they're really that strapped. But the benefits of moving out of state were huge. Like I would say, yeah, move out of, buy a place there and live here, rent it, whatever. Like the benefits were huge. But I don't feel that those benefits are as huge as they used to be, because I sell people's homes that move away, and I find out what they pay for houses, and I'm like, really? Like I sold a house for $920, I think it was, $920 in Long Beach. They moved to Texas, and they paid $700 for a house, and their property taxes are 3%, and I'm going, how does that work out? So basically, you're paying the same amount as your house here. It doesn't make any sense to me anymore. California's ruined that. All the buyers go out to Idaho, Tennessee, Texas. I'm sure it's cheaper, but not that much cheaper. And then look where you get to live. I mean, you couldn't pay me to live in Texas. I might hit the brakes as I'm driving through it, and slow down and maybe pick up a barbecue sandwich, but I don't want to live in Texas. The bugs and the people are moving back. I used to work with this lender before I met Paul. This is like at the very beginning. He was actually a real estate agent, lender, combo. And I sold him a house here, and then he drug his family to Texas, and he's back. It's been 4 years, lost all his equity, lost everything, and now he's back with his family renting because he can't afford to buy here. So when you do move away, make a commitment. Don't come back, because you're not going to be able to afford to.
I'll say something, Steve. We took the traditional route. We bought a condo
Mhm.
and then, rented, then bought a condo, then bought a small house, then moved up, which is what my parents had done, my wife's parents had done. And we noticed what we thought was a phenomenon. Turns out, I guess it's more of the norm in our area, that there's so many people our age that their parents, so the people our age are living in the home, but their parents used to live in the home, then they upgraded, let's say, they bought a bigger house, and they kept the home, and they gave it to their kids. So the people that are our age don't have to buy a home.
Yeah.
And those, a lot of them, I mean, those are the ones that are flying to Paris, have 3
Yeah.
cars, spending 2 weeks in Hawaii. My wife and I are scratching our heads going, how do they do it? And that's how a lot of them do it.
Yeah.
And I think what then ends up happening too is they don't have any incentive whatsoever to get into the market for themselves, because they could just stay in that home, and it may not be their dream home, but it's essentially free in a decent neighborhood, and we see that a lot.
See, I'd rather, personally, that's kind of the way the world's going, is I think that's better than what I'm seeing a lot of. And the state changed the rules. I don't know if it's the state or the Fed. So when you pass away, even if it's in a trust, now I'm not a CPA, right over there is a CPA, but when it's in a trust and you inherit this home, you used to be able to inherit the taxes. You can't inherit it. So what they do is they go to market value, time of death. So say they bought the house for $250,000 and now it's worth $1.5 million. Now you have to pay taxes you're paying $17,000 a year in taxes. Most of these young kids, if their parents pass away, they go, God, I want to keep the house, but I can't afford it. So they sell the house. They divide it up amongst the 2 or 3 kids. Now they've got this cash, and it still doesn't do them any good because they can't afford to buy a house with it. I mean, yeah, it's a great down payment, but I would rather see the kids move into it and be able to assume the taxes because their parents are still alive and they kind of keep it in their parents' name. I don't know, maybe that'd be a great question for Sonia, is how do you move into your parents' house, maybe assume the payments, you're paying the payments or whatever. How do you keep those taxes even throughout their death? Is there a possibility?
You
of
have
that?
a living trust, doesn't a trust do that?
No.
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 There are many ways of getting around those.
Oh, there are?
rules, but you have to plan ahead of time.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah, maybe Sonia could speak about that when she
Yeah,
does her
with
thing.
when,
Yeah.
in my presentation. But, you know, generally there, I think what you're referring to is a step up in basis.
Yeah.
The kids or the beneficiaries
Mhm.
inherit the home and then take that step up in basis.
Mhm.
Step up in basis means that you're inheriting the home at the fair market
Yeah.
value at the time that this person passed away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which helps with capital gains if you then go to sell
Exactly.
it.
Less-
That's
you
the
pay less
huge
tax.
benefit.
There's an initiative that would go on the ballot for next year, by the way, and I'll forward it to everybody. Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association has it out there. It just says, sign this, and this will get on the ballot so people can vote that down, and it goes back to the way it was. So we don't have to get reassessed.
Yeah.
Oh, and you're also talking about Prop 19, right? I think that's, Prop 19 is Jessica's special.
Yeah, with the Prop 19, the kids have to move into the home they'll get $1 million exemption. So if it is worth 1.5, then they're only gonna pay taxes on 500,000.
Oh, okay.
Before, they used to be able to inherit
The whole thing.
what the parents were paying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Still other ways around it.
There's-
Putting it in the name of a corporation,
Yeah.
and a separate legal entity.
I would love to hear about it
Yeah.
and learn more about that because I know this is all new. This happened, what, a year and a half ago? They changed the law,
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
My tax guy told me that and I was just, also, this is kind of off the cuff. As you guys know, my mom passed away and her house, they refused. My sister, my brother, and my mom were up to no good. And they're like moving money around and doing things without consulting with me. And because, I don't know, family deals. You know, it was only my profession that I know about, you know. So, because they were embarrassed. I don't know, they're pulling money out, they're fixing it. I don't know what it was. But anyway, my mom passes away. It's not in a trust. It has my brother and my sister. They removed my mom off the loan so they could refi the house because she was retired. So they're on the loan, but all three of them are on the title. So now we have to go into probate. What a nightmare. Now all they had to do was remove my mom and put me on title, and we could have all three just went on with our lives. And I wouldn't have made him sell the house because my brother lives in the front house. I would never have kicked him out. But now we have to go into probate. And I don't know what's going to happen. And now they're all looking at me like I'm the bad guy. I'm like, hey, you guys are the idiots. You didn't talk to me. You know, I'm only in real estate. Why would you want to talk to me? You know? So they're all moving money around and into account. Like there's all kinds of stuff was going on. And here's the zinger is I just got her life insurance policy. It showed up at my house the other day. And I'm like, and none of their names are on it. It's mine. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm going to have to disclose this in the probate. But, you know, like, I feel like just, you know, God, I'd love to just keep it and screw them, but I can't. So, but anyway, so get your houses in a trust immediately if you haven't done it. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.